The Black Fat Femme Podcast is a production of iHeartRadio and Dr. John Paul, LLC. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black Fat Femme Podcast where all the intersections of identity are celebrated. I am one of your unsick hosts, John, also known as Dr. John Paul.
Bitch.
And I can officially say that I just landed from the mothership. Now, what I will say is this. I am not talking about the motherland, which is different. One day I will get to Africa. I'm talking about my mothership, which is the Apple campus up in the Bay Area. Yes, by the time you hear this, it will be today. Actually, is the day I got back from Dub, what they call WDC. For all of you who've been following me on the socials and asking questions and sending a lot of love and excitement with me, my true Apple heads, y'all know what WWDC is. But by the time you hear this, it'll be a week. So it's been a week since I've been back from Dub. I while I didn't get a chance to meet Tim Cook, I will say that I am reeling with just how exciting the whole bang of it all. Like it was very much giving what I thought an Apple event would give. It was really cool to be in a space with people who truly get my excitement for Apple. And then being able to see Tim, he literally ran out on the stage. He like waved at us and then he ran away. And I don't know what that was about. I was like, why wasn't he out on the stage? Like he didn't even really talk, but it was really cute to see him. Then he has his little sidekick. There's this other guy. I forget what his name is. I think his name is Mark. Who's like his little sidekick that also ran out on the stage, did the same hand gestures. You know, for those who are watching on the YouTubes, they do their hands like this a lot. There's a lot of this and a lot of hand gesturing. And yeah, it just made my little, capitalistic fat heart really, really happy to be there. But anyway, outside of you wanting to fall apart, Joho, how are you doing?
Well, rub-a-dub-dub, look at her. First of all, so excited for you. Moving on up. I am so happy that you got to go. Like, Apple is your girl, and you've been writing for her forever. So I'm so happy that you were able to do that. Fam, it's your boy, John. It's your boy, John. Oh, I can't even speak today. It's your boy, Joho, otherwise known as Jordan, if you love me. And as you might be able to hear, as John announced earlier, I'm a little sickies.
Oh, the baby.
A little sicky, so forgive me for the nasally, for the nasally voice. But I am doing fine though. Thankfully, it is not the Roro, and that's what matters to me. TBH, well, at least for now, it's not. And hopefully, it stays not that way. I mean, we'll find out by next week. If by the time this comes out, either be Roro or not Roro. So
or COVID positive. And either way, we still gonna love on you. We still gonna say,
but I really do think I'll be fine. It's just a reminder of you also can get colds, and that's what I often forget. Oh, you can get sick without COVID these days too. Really, my mind's always like COVID. I'm like, oh, you can just get sick from like existing, and that's when I'm recognizing that my body is just like, girl, we're done. You're done. You're done.
No, it's just reality. It's just everyone's nasty, and you've been in airports. I've been in multiple airports, and it's just seeing, and it's like I just don't comprehend. I mean, and I could go on for hours about how nasty the airport is, but it's not even just the airport being nasty. It's just people are nasty. Like people
everything about the entire process is just like the way I'm like, no one covers anything.
Nope.
No one, like it's a realization of like no one covers, maybe like knows like cover their mouths when they cough these days. They just cough right into the raw air. And I'm like, girl, why would you do that? Like, it's actually not that hard. Also, don't cough into your hand. I see people cough into their hands and then shake someone's hand afterwards. I'm like, you are so nasty.
Gross.
That honestly to me is like premeditated murder. I'm like, you actually want
and
to
then you go to shake someone's
period. Okay. Like, no ways you do it, girl. Like people are nasty on planes.
Are nasty everywhere. Hand.
Girl, I hate everybody.
No, it is absolutely gross. But I will say though, shout out to San Francisco. I think it's San Francisco. There's another airport too that has those infrared like blue light things. So like when you send your stuff through it, it like disinfects. It keeps it. I don't know. I think it is San Francisco. It's either San Francisco or it might be. I don't know if it's Atlanta. It might be Atlanta. But anyway,
I don't know if SFO has that. It has. Hold up, wait. Like in the TSA area.
Yeah, I think so. I think in the TSA area, there's like this little, like it's like a light thing, and then like also same thing with like they have like areas for you to pour your water, and they say like this is clean. Like, so it's very sanitary. There are airports out
Okay,
there that
yes.
seem to be more sanitary than not. I flew out of San Jose, and that was absolutely not giving sanitary. But I know that I have flown out of some airports that are extremely sanitary. So, or at least try to be. I appreciate when I see people like wiping stuff
Nothing's
down
ever
and doing stuff.
sanitary in the world. That's fair. Yeah, that's nice. And that's it's nice
Mhm.
when people try. Also appreciate. I'll say I appreciate the people. But it's weird. The people who like wipe down their seats in the airplane though, I'm
Mhm.
like, which I mean, I love that for you. But
Right.
you wipe on your seat, but you also don't wear a mask. I'm like, so then, like, what really is that doing for you? Like I'm just like, okay, it's interesting seeing. Listen, I also pick
Right.
and choose the ways in which, right, like, I feel most comfortable, but it's interesting seeing some people's choices that
Right.
they make that, like, for example, like, last time when I was at the airport, when I was flying to SFO, there's this woman in front of me who, like, we were there for, like, an hour and a half before we got on the plane, not wear her mask at all, and then when we got on the plane, she wore her mask, and
Yeah.
I was like, That doesn't what? That just
Right.
I mean, that doesn't make sense. Tr
Yeah.
I mean,
I am
what?
confusion. I am confusion.
I
Yeah,
was
I feel
like,
stupid
"No,
too because I'm
okay."
that girl that will wear a mask onto a plane, and then when they come through and they're like, "Would you like a snack?" I'm like, "The fuck yes, I'd like a snack." So I pull my mask down, and I'm like, "Well, then what the fuck was the point of me wearing a mask if I'm
Saying
gonna
no to
drink
snacks, but so
soda
hard,
and
a
eat
little
the
snacky
snacks or eat dinner
poo.
on the plane? This is stupid."
So,
So I
the
don't
dinner, I
know.
definitely have it honestly, it's wild, but that's the thing though, it's like the woman who wore the mask on the plane, I was like, "Okay, but arguably, the on the plane's safer if the science is correct with the whole, like, constant airflow, it's safer to have the mask off in the plane than in the airport." Let it
Uh-huh.
but, like, whatever, but also, like, the whole, like, food thing, if I ever get a meal, I'm like, "Hold my meal until a half hour afterwards. I am not gonna sit with these bitches next to me eating their food. I will wait until they're done eating, and then I'm like, I just fuck that shit up really quickly. But it is rough. I'm trying to do it. I'm like, well, girl, if it happens here, it happens here. At least you had a good ass meal, I guess.
Right. If I'm gonna die or if
Ooh,
I'm gonna get sick, at least I got sick with a good meal. And I will tell you, Delta, in terms of like their Delta One and Delta, folks that are sitting in the front, it's funny because that's been the running joke online with me and TS. I ran into TS Madison a couple of weeks ago when I was flying, and somebody was like, "Y'all don't sit past 6A," and I was like, "That's actually
period.
very accurate."
Yeah.
Me and TS are not going to be sitting anywhere near 6. But with that being said, yes, it's very much, I'm going to send you something and make sure that my girl is good, but I'm sending you well wishes and I hope that you feel better. So we are going to keep this boat moving. Like I said, we are both very much in the mind of being a little tired today. One's under the weather. I've been traveling, but we still wanted to make sure that we got y'all a show. So this week we are jumping into, you're going to hear kind of like this running theme, and I just kind of want to name it up top, that we are going to be talking a lot about fear as just a very general topic this in particular week. And so for our first seggy, as we always do, is still here, giving Miss Tisha Campbell her flowers and letting her know how much we appreciate her. We are dipping our foot into the pool to talk a little bit about that theme or that concept of fear. And so before we get into a deeper dive on it, I wanted to ask you, do you
Mm,
have an irrational fear? Or is there
mm.
something that just kind of makes you be like, I'm not doing that because something could go wrong, and it's just a really stupid, foolish fear that lives in you. I know for me, my stupid fear that I put down is fuel tankers. I'm gonna tell you right now, when I see a fuel tanker on the freeway, it literally it like it sparks something in me, and I don't know what it is. There's something always in me that's going to be like, girl, you are going to go, it's going to blow up, and you are
Oh
going to
god.
die from the fire that is going to come out of that tanker. And I know that a lot of that is very unhinged and it is very silly, but I am super fearful of
Mm.
tankers. So like if I see them on the freeway, I'm gonna slow down to like wait to be like, all y'all can die up there with that tanker, or I'm gonna
Yeah,
speed up and try to get away from it so I can say, "Oh, y'all go die back there with that tanker." I refuse to be anywhere near a tanker as I'm traveling, anywhere near one on the freeway, even like at AM PM. I have literally left pumps as I've seen tankers filling up. I have literally
No.
said, "Oh, I'll get gas."
You said no.
Y'all will kill me with a tanker. That is not how I'm going out. Outside of spiders
Okay.
and that literally is the only thing that makes me want to scream like Michael and Janet Jackson. I'm not
Oh my god.
doing anything with a tanker. What about you? What's your irrational
Okay,
fear?
listen, listen. We have all hopefully, we have all seen the Final Destination 2 film
That's
and
what
that
did
horrible
it.
ass car wreck where
Mhm.
that tanker exploded and the fucking log came through a bitch's window, like, that's just
Yes,
not for me. So I
all of it.
too would shift my ass away from a big ass tanker, but I was wondering, would they also move away from tankers at the gas station? And I love that you confirmed that you would. And that to me, I'm like, okay, that's because I was like, it's not that rational. And now I'm like, oh no,
No.
that's irrational. I'm like, girl,
Mm-mm.
even the tanker is like the other side of
No.
the the station. You
If
definitely
I don't care
screaming.
where that tanker
I'm
is, if I can see it,
screaming.
I want nothing to do with it.
Okay,
I'm leaving.
that's hilarious,
Y'all are
but
not
also
getting
so
me.
facts. So
Mm-mm.
with mine, so I had one, but I realized I don't think it's necessarily irrational. I don't think it's like silly because I was gonna say like originally like mine was like a fear of the dark, which I really do have. Like pure darkness fucking terrifies me. If it's
I'm
like
not
that
laughing at you, but
moment,
it's funny.
like
Yeah.
that moment when the power goes out and there's like a blackout at nighttime and everything looks true dark before your eyes adjust. Like that's the space in which
That
my
shit
heart
is
races and I
scary.
feel breathless. But
Mhm.
I actually don't think that's irrational. That's very irrational. So my irrational fear is when bitches put a pole. If we're walking and
Yeah.
if we're walking this edge
Yeah.
between us and the bitch next to me decides to go around the pole and
Imma
because
follow. Yep.
I will follow them, right?
That's real.
But
That's
I've
real
had
too.
friends who would fuck with me and just like go around the pole anyways.
Don't do
And
that.
I'm like, bitch, if you want to get karmic disaster on your end, that's your decision. But don't put that on me, baby girl. Like I don't know where I
'Cause we black.
discovered this. Where
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
black.
fair.
Right, we
But
black.
like I didn't do it a lot as a kid. But as an adult, I'm like, you will not split pole in my presence, bitch. Like, and I don't care. I don't care if it's a telephone pole
Yep.
or a parking meter pole. Like
Yep.
it can literally be a stump in the grass,
Those little
girl.
those little things that they have, like, in front of, like, when you go to events and then they're, like, those little metal they're like those
Yeah,
massively bulleted type things. I've seen
yeah.
people split those, and I'm like, "Don't do that.
Um,
That's
uh,
bad luck."
any any
Uh-huh.
physically vertical energetic thing between us, girl, we are not splitting that
Amen.
shit. Okay,
Amen. Amen.
okay. Even
Very
a
much
whole
that.
other person. Nope,
I will
nope,
also
not for me.
say I don't put my bag on the floor either. That's another superstition thing that I have. We don't put
Oh, okay,
bags on the
different.
floor. Backpacks, purses, wallets, nothing of mine should ever be on the floor. And that I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's because, I have a true fear of being broke." And everybody says
I
that
love it.
putting your bags on the
It's gonna
floor.
Louis bag. It's
Mhm.
gonna get the Louis bag so
Well,
much
it's not even
because
just
I
because I
shit
have a Louis
myself when
bag.
I'm back on the floor.
It's not even just because I have a Louis bag.
Anything?
It's simply I just don't believe in, like, even right now, like, my
Mhm.
respirator I have a not respirator, I have a CPAP machine because 'cause I'm a big bitch
Yeah,
and I have to sleep with one. I won't put that on the floor either. I don't believe that bags
on
should go on
floors, just for
floors.
feet. That's it. Period.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Should
feel you.
not.
I love that for you.
Absolutely not. Well, with that being said, now that I've opened up and let y'all know what irrational fears we have and what keeps us up at night, um
Tune into us, y'all. Don't go driving a field tinker in front of John's car. Don't you dare split the pool with me, bitch, because I will fuck you
Right.
up. Okay.
We are gonna take a short break so I can take my Lexa Pro. We'll be back in just a second.
Okay, fam, we are back at SSRI up. So for today's category is John has been teasing.
I
John's been
do.
teasing this topic in our team meeting for some time. And so I decided that we could get into it since it's just us sisters. A sister
Mhm,
breaking bread. That being said, we want to get into a conversation on fear and not just what scares you about X or why you're afraid of Y,
mhm.
but really think about how fear itself can control you and how it can keep you from making hard decisions that you know are best for you. So, John, to kick us off, I want to first ask you what made you want to talk about fear on the air?
Yeah, that's I and it's so interesting because I just came out of a difficult conversation and part of the conversation, I won't get into all of what the conversation was, but someone had said, "Well, you feel that way because you are scared." And I'm like, "You know what? You're damn right I'm scared." But I
Mm,
think it is because I'm about to be 39 and fear sometimes starts to loom around every year with my birthday, and it's not even just the irrational fear, or it's not just I'm scared of this. It really is
mm,
kind of like this idea of, like, I'm getting older and sometimes I worry if I didn't make the right decisions whether that be like, and I'm gonna just be blunt, whether it's
Mm,
with love or whether it's with jobs or whether it's with things I said no to or things that I said yes to, things that,
mm,
my question, like as of recently, I'm just, again, y'all know that this show is very transparent. The fear of, should I have said yes to that book deal? Should I have waited to get more money out of it? Should I have waited for it to be a bigger deal? Like, there are all of these things that
mm,
constantly keep coming up. And so I think for me, this conversation around fear has been real because I think we don't. One part of it is also, like I said, closer to death, right? This is something that we don't talk enough about getting older, and
mhm,
the idea of regret. And I mean, I know we can dig into that a little bit later, but
mm,
really there is this real feeling of like, oh, have I made all the right decisions? But then also like really thinking about like what all of the stuff I'm doing right now, and really thinking about how some of the stuff that I have not done is because of the fear that has either been embedded in me via like just
mm,
life, and then there's like the fear because I'm a black fat femme, right? So there's all
mm,
of these
mhm,
things that kind of
mhm,
come into play, and this idea of like if I reach, it's funny because on my plane ride home, I was watching the show Acapulco, and one of the characters said something, and
mm,
it was very kind of around based in the concept of fear, and it really hit home for me because I was like, oh my God, this theme of fear keeps showing up in so many different ways. And so I think for me, it's just something that constantly lingers. And even now, with life feeling so super uncertain, gas is high, rent is high, like we're all 3
yeah,
seconds away from catching COVID. Like there's just so much I think I don't, and I guess that's kind of what maybe we have to do in this convo is like unpack what unease is versus fear. I just think that I'm constantly, I wouldn't say like I'm restful in the sense of like I'm home and I'm okay with life and I love this show and I'm happy with my book and all of these things that I'm happy the way that process is going, but there's still this instance of unease that kind of lives around me. And
mm,
so I don't know if that's something you deal with too. I know we were texting about it yesterday. We were texting about
mm.
some of that, but yeah, that's really where a lot of this came from, is just that unease and that fear, and thinking about it and how it kind of plays a role into my life
Yeah.
now.
So I think, ooh, there's so much here. I think that unease, I mean, unease to me, honestly, is like for sure an affect of capitalism or an
Yeah.
affect of white supremacy. Like, especially as black fat femmes, we don't have often have the luxury of feeling content or satisfied or
Mhm,
settled
mhm.
because one, we're hyper conscious of how things can be taken away from us really easily.
Yep.
I'm hyper conscious of how um like how we can be made to work more, do more, have to be more to prove something. So I
Yeah.
think that's when it comes to uneasiness of like it's just so, and it's sad because I am striving to not chalk it down to like existing as our identities is what's hard, right?
Mm.
Because then
Right,
people will
'cause
be
it's yeah,
like
I get you, I get you.
people will be, yeah, you like 'cause people will be like, oh, like like you can change it, you can manifest. Like yes, 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 you can, but also I understand that the odds are different for us. The odds are
Yeah,
different, and the
yeah,
way the opportunities that we have to manifest or change, because manifest takes work, and the opportunities we have to work and restore those things are different than like white folks or
T.
straight folks or cis
Mhm,
folks or like conventionally hot folks, blah blah blah. And so I think this when it comes to the unease, it's like the unease is just the world which we existed. Also, we're, as John and I were texting last night, like we're just in a phase, an era of life where like it's just trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, and then we are
mhm.
made to somehow like keep it pushing through all of it, and that's just really hard.
It is.
And I think, and I think with fear, like my relationship to fear has definitely changed a lot over the years. But I do believe I believe it's one that lingers around us for sure, or many of us at least. Like I think the fears you named are totally valid fears. The thing, like the fear of did I make the right choices? Because I think about that too. Make the right choice, am I in the right place? Did I pick the right person? Like all these things, and these are things that many of us carry. It's like like one of my dearest friends has a deep fear of death, and like they're like even the
Mm,
thought of death makes them absolutely anxious, right? Like and like they've experienced loss themselves, but just even thinking about death makes them like freak out entirely. and I think fear is embedded in us on multiple levels. So, like the way you said, right? It's how we grew up as people in the world. There's black folks, queer folks, fat folks, and in
Yeah.
between, and like, and like as I say that, sometimes part of me is like, well, damn, well, shit, like, when are we going to give them the chance to not have fear?
Yeah.
How do we dream of a world where we actually don't have to have fear? Like, I think a lot about my friend Kelsey, who her work is rooted in it's called Black Dream Experiments, about how to just give space for Black folks to dream, and how
Mm,
to give space for Black folks to just like exist and dreaming and not to worry about something,
yeah.
and I love that, right? But I'm also reminded of how, and I'm not saying that the work she's doing is the work that they're doing is ephemeral. I'm saying like in that moment in time, I think we think about how ephemeral that is for us at present, because
Yeah.
how do we get to actually have constant space to dream and feel abundant and feel free and not have to feel fear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, which is the work, that's the work that she's doing, is how to figure out how to create the space in an abundant, sustainable way. And
Yeah.
something that for myself am like experiencing a lot of challenges on, of like, how do I feel at ease? How do I feel rested? How do I feel safe? Right? Because a lot of fear is a feeling of unsafety as well. So how do we
Oh,
feel
that part. That's real.
safe
That's
and
real.
stuff, or
Yeah.
secure and something?
And I will even say to your point about the fear of just how uneasy it is, I'll say this. So when I was driving back, it didn't even hit me with like just the world that we live in and the impact of this country, right? I don't know if you heard, but or at least I don't know if you were aware. So I don't even know if I told you. So like a couple of weeks ago when I was in Philly, my driver who was taking me to my hotel, he had told me that that day he had experienced seeing someone get shot on the New Jersey Turnpike. And so he was explaining to me kind of everything that had happened. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I understand that. I was listening to him
Wow.
share the story, and I could tell that he really just wanted to tell me because he was like, I just experienced this really traumatic thing, and I can't go home. I'm still on the clock, so I need someone else to know it. And I'm like, okay.
Mm.
So walking
Mhm.
with him through that, and I probably should have said trigger warning, but all that to be said, I thought about today. So today I was driving and I think I was getting ready to get onto the 110, and I saw a guy put something out of his window, and this just overwhelming sense of like, oh my God, what is he putting out of his, and I don't know. I didn't stick around long enough. Like the blackness in me kicked up and was like, girl, if you don't get the fuck up out of here, like
Mm.
don't
Mhm.
stick around and try to figure out what it is that he put out of his
Yeah.
passenger's window, right? And I saw him laughing, in the midst of him and the person in the car with him doing it. But it was just this innate fear that I had in me of like, that fight or flight. And so I think about that, like when you talk about this idea of constantly living in fear, you
Mm.
know, I think that there's so, and that's kind of why I wanted to like bring this to the podcast, because I think we talk a lot about, and we've talked about it, right, in our 100 episodes that we've done. I love saying that. In
Come
the
on now.
multitude
Yes.
of episodes that we've done, we've talked about all of the layers of different things that we've had to experience in our intersections, right? But no one talks about this idea of like, how do you navigate like the fears that are put onto you because of oppression, plus just the
Mm.
general fears of like existing as an American, because it's terrifying, right? And people make jokes about it,
Oof.
but it's kind of like, and I've learned to kind of laugh through it, but there's just so much as an American. Like even my partner, I mean, like I said, the conversation that I had before we jumped on the mic was a conversation of, well, what is it going to look like when we get older? Are we going to be able to do this, and are we going
Mm.
to be able to do that? And it's a big for us. It's just, sometimes I feel like a sim where I have a big ass question mark over my head because I don't know. Like I don't know what financial security is going to look like for me in 10 to 20 years because of the way the world looks. I
Mm.
don't know if I'm going to be able to drive from
Oof.
one point to another and not get shot. Like I don't know if someone's going to gay bash me. There's all of these things. And so it's like, but then there's also
Mm.
a part of me that says, girl, like you can't, and I guess that's also partly what this conversation is. It's just a space for me to be able to say, okay, I can leave this here, because I think often too, like I'm constantly in the mind of like, I want to be very clear and saying I don't walk around as like a doomsdayer, right? Like I'm not always
Yeah.
waiting for something terrible to happen. That's not my mental. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that fear is something for mine, and I just want to make sure that I really drive this home and I name it, like for minoritized people, fear is something you cannot find joy without having a little bit of fear. Like even when you are in a joyful moment, and I mean, I'm sure that
Mm,
you experience this, right? The black people laughing too loud, the fear of is someone going to call the cops or going to come over
mm,
here and try to, police the fun that I'm having with two or three of my black friends as we're laughing. Like these are things
mm.
constantly come up that live
Oof.
in the psyche of us, right? Because of who we are. And so I think all of that to say, kind of a light flex, but in my TED talk that I gave some time ago, that was the theme that kind of to your point about Kelsey that I really loved, this notion around fear to freedom. I've been thinking about it a lot and really thinking about our relationship to fear. And I guess for folks who probably are listening, you're probably sitting with this and again, and that's why I say I think I'm going to say this, and we may get some backlash. We may get some people who probably feel away with me saying this, but I go, that's why black people are fucking amazing. Because even with all of the terrible, and I'll say black and queer people, I would even go one more, a step more to say black women and black trans women are amazing because even in all of the fear that we have, whether it be irrational or not, we still manage to make space to dream. We still make space to find joy. We still make space to laugh. I still think black people are the funniest people on this fucking earth. You'll never, and no one will ever be able to change that. I just think black people
Okay,
are naturally funny. And I think
okay.
have to be, right? We have to learn how
Mhm,
to find humor in a lot of the fucked up shit that we have to deal with on a day to day. And so that was one of the things I was thinking about. Like for me, part of my letting go of fear has been just the freedom that being like, you know what? I have no fucking control over that. I have no control over how any of this is going to play out. And I just got to do what I got to do to make sure that my life is done the best way. But that was one of the things I did want to ask you is, how have you
mm,
learned to kind of, like, what has been your journey per se, or what has been your relationship to fear? And ultimately, like, what has it helped you learn about yourself?
mm, mm. Who? So I first want to hold in. Well, so the first thing I'll say is this is a side, but a silly side. But Dochi had posted on their story that it was on a story or a post on their Instagram, but like they were recording people on the camera out like with the window down of the car, like somewhere in some city somewhere, and what and one girl like ducked. She immediately like ducked and covered,
Right.
right? Right.
Yeah.
And and then and then Dochi responds ducked in the car, right? And rolled the window up. It was like and then but like then they started laughing, right? And the caption was like not a fan thinking I'm gonna shoot them or something, right? But it's funny, but it also like really demonstrates that nothing feels safe anymore for people, right?
Nope.
Like you see someone
Nope.
rolling down the window, you think, are they gonna shoot me? And like, I mean, right, and like I'm sure it's funny in hindsight in some ways, but that girl probably was like, fuck, I bet you I'm gonna get shot, and she's the only person that died, right? And everyone's like, why is she ducking, right? Or I think of that that episode in Harlem where Angie ran and every black person just dropped what they're doing, just started
Mhm.
following her, right? And it's like it's funny
Look,
as hell, it's funny, but like it also is like nothing feels so safe anymore. So you
no, it
really have to
doesn't.
know when to move and when to duck and when to run out the way at any given moment. And that I think speaks to the idea of like you had said like you don't feel joy without fear. And I think I'm I think I would see it like a bit differently of like you don't feel like you may not understand safety without fear because I think joy
Okay.
I think I think joy is more about pain to me
Okay.
or, or like sadness because they're like those are both like more like emotive and and fear is emotion as well too, but I think fear, like I said earlier, is about not about unsafety. And so I think if you don't know fear, then like you won't know what security is or something,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you have security, then you know that you have nothing to fear in that moment or something. And so I think for myself, how I learned to navigate fear or like discuss fear,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always having to reinterrogate my relationship with it because it helps me understand what my motivations are to do things that are for me or not for me. It
Yeah.
gives me better language to understand what energizes me and what brings me down. But I think what I've done or how I've learned about it is that a lot of my fears. So my gosh, fear is a I have different types of fears, right? Like, I used to have a fear of truth, so I
Yeah.
lied a lot
Oh,
as a kid,
okay.
and
Yeah.
so now, like, I strive to be truthful and honest in everything I do, even at points to my detriment, or even like if it doesn't feel good, I will still I'll try to be honest because lying will feel worse, right? And I don't want to fear truth. I want to embrace truth and love
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
Um, I fear the dark because the dark is like the dark is I see it as this like empty void where what is this, right? And there's
Mm.
some ways in which like I often think about when I often think about like my first cruise when I saw like the pitch blackness of the top deck at
That
midnight, and I was
that's
like,
real though.
that's it's so
That's real.
terrifying. Because in
Yes.
my house, like, bitch, like I can get snatched up by a pterodactyl, a kraken can come and get me. Like, who's gonna know what's gonna happen, right? But also like
Yeah.
immensely humbling too. Of like, oh,
Mhm.
I am actually, but an insignificant thing in the grand scheme of the world, right? And so
Mm.
like I think what I've had to do is recognize that fear will always be there. Like fear is a companion, and I don't think fear is always bad. So I think people feel fear as a frame fear as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But like fear, I mean, fear, like anxiety, is there to protect us in some ways too. And I think having fear is good because I also think, like, along with fear and safety or fear and freedom, right? It's also a sense of like, if I don't feel fear, then I also sometimes I don't feel courage, right?
Mm.
Like I have to sometimes know what fear is to know what courage is. Because if I'm always courageous and not
Okay.
fearful, then is
Okay.
really courageous,
I
right?
see you. Yeah.
Um,
Go off.
and
Go off,
so
sis.
he's smoking on
She's
good, good.
cooking.
But
Cooking.
so I think
All 4 burners. Go off, girl.
okay, Thrall, but
Yes.
period. Thank you. But
Yes.
really, like I think I've had to realize like right, people fear being vulnerable because it means that
T.
they have to expose themselves. People fear being vulnerable because it means that they have to be honest about who they are, right, and instead the antidote to that is courageousness and bravery with yourself.
Mm.
Um, and so I think it's what I think for myself. I think I've learned how to, as Audre Lorde says, right, speak even if my voice shakes, because my voice shaking with
Yeah.
fear, but I had to speak anyways. That's actually, and I think a lot about fear lately, especially this past year, of just like what fear means and what does speaking up mean, what does speaking out mean, and what does like action look like in
Right.
fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we let fear control us and motivate us? What at what point, at what point is it okay that fear is too great as well too? Because in the day, like fear is real, and in many cases, people are proven right with their fears, right? Like
Yeah.
people fear
Yeah.
having a social death, having a physical death, having an emotional death, right? And like those fears are real, and they're proven real whenever we step outside the house or watch the
Yeah.
news. So yeah, so I'll just say I think the way I navigate is understanding that fear is going to be associated with me, and I have to choose the points in which it feels courageous to me to do something about it,
Yeah.
and the moments in which and the moments in which I'm like, girl, like I actually don't have to address that here today. Like it's okay.
Yeah. But
I don't need to do that
to
right
your
now.
point, I'm so glad that you said that because it really ties into this, to the next point. And I was gonna say the moments when we feel like we don't have to like worry about fear, I think sometimes we don't really recognize how much of that is wrapped in privilege. And I think, and I'm not
Mm,
saying that we are like privileged people, right? I don't think that this conversation for us is coming from a place of privilege because I think, well, yes. So there's our cisgender privilege, right? We have our cisgender privilege.
yeah,
We're both males. I would say we're both big males. And so very rarely, I'll even say that for me, like, my mom is always screaming, be careful. My husband's saying, be careful. And I'm very much in the mind of like, I'm a big girl. And so very rarely do people ever
yeah,
really want to run up on me because they're probably
yeah.
fearful of the power behind my
Even
fist.
if I can't fight, they don't want to find out. I mean,
Right.
but I can fight. So just so you know, I can
Hello. And
fight.
that's something just I
Okay,
always like to
fuck
tell people.
around,
I grew
bitch.
up on 15th and Vale in San Bernardino. I know how to fight. And I will win. But my biggest thing is I know I don't have to be there. But what I'm saying is I still think that there is a luxury that folks have when they talk about it. And so even for me, right, to an extent, there are parts of this conversation that I want to, because I'm sure some people would come in and probably be like, well, y'all are two cis men living in a world, that's almost built for you to excel. What do you have to be scared of? And I want to say, yes, that is a privilege that I want to acknowledge, but I also think that there's still very much a conversation too of there's a certain energy that I think we're talking about here around this notion of fear. And I think a big part of that is really actualizing and giving onus or giving or vocalizing the white supremacy of it all for us, right? This idea that
Mm,
even when you
mhm,
said courage, that hit me a certain way because I'm thinking to myself, there takes a certain element of courage for us to still be us, even in
mhm,
these even in spaces when we may feel like, well, my body and the size of my body will protect me, right? For me to put on nails and have people, I laugh, I can laugh about it because I've gotten to a place now where it doesn't bother me as much. But even like, recently I was checking in somewhere and the woman looked at me, or the person I should say looked at me, and they were like, Mr., Mrs., pronouns, and I just was like, I'm non-binary, and we laughed about it in the moment, right? Those are things, right? But even just thinking about how maybe 2 or 3 years ago I was so terrified of that moment that it's taken me
mm,
a lot of work to get to a place now where I can look someone dead in the face and go, I'm non-binary, sister. I'm not worried about you worried about my gender.
yeah,
And so like,
mhm,
that's a luxury to some people. They don't have to worry about that. Whereas for us, it's an everyday thing. And so I think I guess for me, and the bigger part of this conversation, right? You talking about being afraid of the dark, and me talking about the fear that I have just of did I make the right decision? These are they may seem small to some people, but I think there's a very valid, like, in the through line of this conversation, what I think of kind of like the, when you look at an Oreo and then you see the white stuff in the middle with the Oreo, that's what this conversation is between that. That's the
no, I
racism,
love white stuff.
sexism, and all of the
Mhm.
isms that we have to navigate. And you know what I mean? And I know it's a really silly
Yeah, yeah.
reference, but
No, yeah,
that's
yeah. I
really
think,
yeah,
I think, if I may, like, I think I'm putting up push with what we're putting down. I'll just say, just a point, if someone's gonna tell us that the world was made for us because we're cis male body people,
yes,
I just wanna address, like, we are cis femmes, like, and let me be very clear, like, while we may have a physical privilege of being bigger body and a physical safety in terms of people may not attack us attack us because we're bigger and or because we're a man, it does not guarantee emotional safety or mental safety. And
that
let me
part,
tell
that
you,
part, yes,
there are still groups of people who will still attack us on the street,
amen.
regardless.
Right, yeah.
Like privilege
And
is
I don't
different.
wanna
And
I hear what
no,
you're
no,
saying.
no, I mean,
I don't wanna take
and
that away. Yeah, 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 go
yeah,
off.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I, 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 I don't think you're saying that right, but like, I'm just saying, like, if people look at us and they're like, oh, like, you have so much privilege because the world's made for you, simply because of our like male like bodies, I'm like, sure, physically, we're less likely to be harmed
Too
or
true,
unsafe physically
too
in
true. Yep,
altercations because people probably won't want to attack us. But then layer that what they want to attack us because we're queer, because we're femme, because we're black, because we're fat, right? Like in that, and it could be emotional attack, mental attack. It could be physical attacks as well too. Like it is different. And so I just want to name that of like privilege is a weird dance that we have to constantly, the weird line that we have to constantly dance with, but it will look different for every person in every way. Now,
yeah,
I think what I think what with what you're saying, we're in a moment in time where we're seeing so many white folks like leading the charge of vocalizing things and like laying and I say seeing them as in like they're the ones that are getting the most like the most uh press
yeah,
sometimes for it.
yeah,
And they're willing to like lay down their whatever and the hills that they want to die on.
yeah,
And it's a reminder that the stakes may not be as high for them
right.
if there's retaliation against them versus retaliation against black folks or indigenous folks or other folks of color. Like, and the folks of color, I want to be really clear, right? There were a moment in time where many folks of color are using their voice constantly,
Yeah,
and they are using their bodies and their privileges. But they do that making it the intentional choice of understanding that they not be able to go where they want to go,
mhm,
like by the end of it, right? Like,
yep,
and nothing what's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that like folks of color most likely are like making these decisions and like are saying like I don't care if I lose my job. I don't care if I because this is what matters to me, right? The consequences are worse for us. The white folks often don't have to have that fear. They
Amen.
can do whatever they want to do in
Amen.
most cases, and not fear losing their job or not fear having someone come for them, right?
Mhm.
Folks of color are the ones who have higher stakes in it, and so
Say
I think
that.
that's why I think about a lot when it comes to like fear and how we show up because like again the consequences are like they're higher but also they're very real, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my job, not because I like particularly love it. I mean I do, but like because I also truly cannot afford to not have a job,
Amen. Amen.
and I can't
Amen.
and to find a new job would take a long time too, right? The same way, but that said, like I can afford losing some friendships if it means that I right. So if my vocability isn't out loud in small circles with friendships, right? It means I lose friendships, and like I can do that because I would rather be honest about the things I care about with people
Mm.
and weed that out, right? But like we have to make the decision of what is worth giving up for us. And again,
Yeah.
that's the decision that folks of color have to think about is what
All
is
the
worth
time.
us giving up. And we
Yeah.
make that in every single way that and every
Yeah.
single thing we do. What do we have to give up to be here or to do this thing
Mhm.
that many folks don't have, that many non-folks of color and many non-queer folks they don't have non-trans folks, they don't have to do that.
Right.
They can make decisions and not worry about what am I sacrificing to do this thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
who am I also sacrificing for this thing? And that is just like a constant thing that we have to grapple with. And again, plays the idea of fear, right? We then have to fear what happens after this.
And I
We
would
have
I would
no idea.
Right, and I would even go as far to say, and I'll say this publicly, I think you're really tapping on something that's very salient for me in my own mind because in the last few months, my mind has clicked over in a way that I've never really experienced it where I was so passionate and so very much like I want to make space for LGBTQ people and I want to make space for black people and I want to do this and I want to do that. I have been really battling with this idea of going like it doesn't feel like it's ever going to change and I feel like I'm wasting my voice and my time and my energy when everything in the world just feels so terrible. And I think that that's one of the the,
Yeah.
the biggest pieces of fear that I have is and I'll even say this on the air like sometimes I wonder, it doesn't cross my mind often, but it does, did I talk myself have I talked myself out of greater opportunity? And I'll be transparent in saying like I'm very aware of like my mind works in such an interesting way. I can say, "Oh shit, I think I may have talked myself out of a great opportunity because I was so, you know, pro this or pro that for the liberation of us, right?" But then there's the other part of my mind that goes, "Girl, well, you wouldn't have wanted to work with that company anyway." And I'm like, "You
Okay.
right, you right." So like
Okay.
there's still this thing that goes on in my head, but I think to say all of that, right? And showing the humanistic side of that. I don't even know if that's a real word, but like the humanistic
It
side of
is.
it all,
It is.
really looking at it from this idea of like how fucked up that is, right? How
Yeah.
that lives in our like how that lives in our minds that I shouldn't have to worry about my livelihood because I say that this in particular group of people, this in particular country, this in particular place, these people deserve to live, right? These people deserve to have great homes and feel safe, right? That like the fact that my livelihood rests on if I say something about that or not. Like I don't, and I think that I guess that's really what this conversation is it's a way of saying like how fucked up. And I think that's the only way I can put it. I know I'm cursing a lot, but it's like that's literally where my spirit is. It's a really fucked up thing to think about
Yeah.
how there's so much that your life and your livelihood rest on by you simply saying I just want to have an easier life or I want people to have an easier life. I don't want fat people to have to feel like they have to shrink themselves right? Or I don't want black people to feel like they have to tuck away their blackness in order for them to thrive in this particular area. Like even yesterday, like I said, there was a part of me that was really excited with being where I was, right? I'm in a place where I'm living my dream. I'm like, oh yes, I'm in it with Apple. And then I have another black person walk up to me and they go, yo, it's real good to see you here. And in the interaction, I know exactly what he means, right? Like
Mm,
we shouldn't have to do that. But
yeah,
that is a reality for us that
yeah,
even in the moments when we're the happiest that we can ever be, right? Money is good, bills are paid, food is in the fridge, gas is in your car. You may have been able to find. I got a $37 check from the tax, from the government. The
yeah,
government sent me a
yeah,
refund of $37 back today. Like even in that, there is still that lingering moment of fear of something of white
yeah,
supremacy or oppression or
yeah.
whatever the case. It's there and it never goes away. And so I feel sort of cathartic. I don't know if that's the right word, but in having that conversation, because I think in a way of me and you being able to talk about this on the mic and on the air, I personally, the reason why I brought it up is I just want to validate that a lot of us
Mm,
are not living you may see the smiles and you may see the Instagram post and you may see the, oh look bitch, look what I'm doing, look at the happy life that I'm
mhm,
curating for myself. But it's real over here for a lot of us. Like we are all contending with so much. And the same thing for you. Like I know there's a lot you want to say, and I look at when we get to certain topics and I look at you and it's like, damn, I know my sister can't say that. She can't say what she wants to say. And I'm sure you look at me and think the same thing. There's a lot of shit that I want to say. There's a lot of shit that I want to say about other people that I know that has experienced stuff in the last couple of months. And the fucked up part of it is capitalism, white supremacy, and all the other pieces of it tell you you can't. And it's just a thing you have to sit with. You just have to sit with knowing that even in a lot of your fearlessness, there is still this kind of, I don't know how to even explain it. There's just there's almost this kind of crust, this nasty crust that sits there. That's kind of just like, well, what is tomorrow going to look like for you, girl?
yeah.
So.
Whew, whew.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I I'll just say I often play back this excerpt from Las Culturistas, which is a show on our network, and it was that Tina Fey was in, and she does like her like, I don't think so, honey, and it's really funny thing, but she makes a
Mm-hmm.
comment at the end of saying authenticity is dangerous and expensive, and I like it's funny, right? Like she said, it's a really funny thing, but when I hear that, I'm always like, bitch, like it is
If
dangerous
you
and
only knew,
expensive,
if
like
you
it
only
is,
knew.
and I think that's why just what you're saying makes me think about that a lot because it's like, yeah, like like it's dangerous, and I mean that in every way. Like it's dangerous physically,
Yep.
dangerous emotionally, dangerous
Yep.
mentally, dangerous economically to say and do things sometimes. And I think this right this moment has taught me there is a value in knowing when to say something or where to say something and how to say
Amen.
something. Like there is definitely value in that. But I've definitely have been seeing myself like this even this talk that's really made me think about I don't know how much more I can like allow myself to not be silent, but to not say something sometimes because I might feel like I'm getting closer to that point where I'm like I feel like I need and I think if people follow me and if they peep a lot,
Oh,
they'll see
y'all gonna know. Y'all gotta know.
they'll see that
Please
there's
know.
some things I hint at here and there
Uh-huh.
I'll put little icons somewhere and stuff as like my own little like fuck you resistance thing. But it's to a point now where I'm like, ooh, like authenticity is expensive. But other part of me is like, I don't know how much more I can feel endangered myself before
Right.
before I can start saying like it's okay that's dangerous and I can still do this thing. So ooh, so
Yeah.
hard. I think Go ahead.
If you know, you know, it's watermelon season over here all the time, babies. And I
Okay.
like some salt on my watermelon.
Period.
But the other thing I was going to say to that point is I also want to say that in this conversation, right, it is very important to ask yourself if you are not at a place right now where you are tired of seeing all the stuff going on around you. I hear kind of this common theme that I'm hearing a lot of people say, I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of this. And I'm kind of like, I know it sounds awful to just kind of be like, yeah, I'm sorry it sucks. There's a part of me that's happy when I hear people say it, this all feels so awful and this all feels so heavy, because it tells
Mm,
me that people that I care about give a damn. You know what I mean?
mm,
But if you're
mhm.
in a place right now where none of this shit is affecting you, and I say this across the gamut, if you're not affected by anything that's happening right now, if you're not tired, if you're not feeling a certain type of way, I have a lot of questions for you about where your priorities are. Because if it ain't one thing, it's something else. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. Like, there's just
Ugh.
so much happening. So to your point, if you're sitting around and you're not, I wouldn't even say fearful, if you're not bothered by everything that you're seeing and everything that you're feeling, my God, like, what kind of what that's the real privilege right there. I want to know that privilege. I would love to taste that kind of privilege because everything is
You
bugging
let us,
me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Y'all let us know where you find that and how you get that, because we want some too.
Is
Whew,
it crack?
okay,
Baby,
so
is it
I'm
crack?
okay, let me
Is
know, good
it?
bitches. I'll smoke it
How
right
do you
now. Okay. No, I'm
look? How do I
I'm not.
get some of that? Because
Uh,
it feels good. Yes, go
okay,
off.
so now that we have Chan, our good sis Iana Van Zant, and somewhat faced our fears and maybe
Somewhat.
gave y'all some more fears, we have to take a break to pay the piper. We'll be
Woo!
back in just a sec.
My God. So this week for how you for our next segment, I decided to jump back into the how you healing bag, and it's because one, we've literally left how you healing in the dust, and and I was like, we
Okay,
need to bring her back around
okay,
just to
we got
kind
some
of
healing
talk
to do.
through some of the stuff, and kind of put like a really cute bow on this whole conversation, right? So we talked about irrational fears earlier. We've talked about kind of just the fear. I really would say the fear of being an American really is a lot of what
Girl.
that convo was, but also this notion of really talking about our own self fears. And so I did want to ask, as we kind of like wrap it all up, is really thinking about in terms of being scared, right? What is something that you want to get more comfy with, or something that you would like to kind of step out of being afraid of? And I know for myself, I said, and I'm not saying that I'm going to do it, so I want to make it very clear that I'm not talking about actually doing it. However, I do have friends that I follow both on Instagram and on Twitter, who are what I like to call big bodied people. And they always got their shirts off. And it's always this notion of like, I just wish I could feel that comfortable with my shirt off in front of the camera or in front of people. And so I told myself, this summer, if I do go to the beach, if I do go out in a like to a pool or do something, I'm really going to challenge myself to be a little bit more comfortable with taking my shirt off. And it is, like I said, I think a big part of it is growing up and getting teased because of, my movies, which I've, like I said in a few episodes before, I've become very comfortable with. But
Yeah.
it's there's still this element of true fear that I have about taking my shirt off around people. And it's really not even just being fat. It's the idea of just being fat around other people. I think that I have the uncomfortableness with. I like my body, but it's also like, but I know that the world doesn't, and having to contend with that. And so I
Yeah.
told myself, I said, this year I'm really gonna try to like put kind of theory into motion and really step into this
Mhm.
notion of like, if you're out and about and you can't take your shirt off, do it. But yeah, what about you? What's something that you're like looking at that you're like, maybe I'm afraid of, and I want to do this to kind of like shake the
You
tape?
know, mine's just kinda along the same vein, like, it was such I probably have been, like, maybe 2, 3 years now where I have, been fine taking my shirt off at a pool or the beach, or, like, at some, like yeah, in some, like, public area.
Hmm.
Um, it was a conscious decision I made to do it, one, because I had to tell myself, like, this is the body that I have, and this body that I have is deserving of, like, some sunlight, first of all,
Yeah. Amen.
but also, like, it's deserving of feeling free in the water because let's be clear, when you go swimming with a t-shirt, that shit weighs you down, it makes you feel
Very
heavy, like, it
much.
really is not
Amen.
really just, like, not does not feel that good or, like, or feels that cute, and so I was like, Jordan, like, your body is deserving of feeling like everybody else's does in this way. Like,
Mm.
especially when, like, I have the privilege of having a body that can still do this. And so I've done that consciously, but it's also hard. I've also had to remind myself, like, nobody actually cares. Like, nobody actually cares. I mean, there are people who may or may not care, right? And, like, those folks will, like, show themselves to you very quickly, but, like, majority of folks do not give a fuck about, like, about me having my shit off, and neither do I. Like, if I have to sit through see their shirts off, they can sit through seeing my shirt off as well too. But I begin by
Mm.
doing it with people that I love and care about and that I trust, and that's what made me feel comfortable to then do it out more and more in public.
Yeah.
But what I'm growing into is doing it more around, like, other gays because that's where I probably feel the most
Yeah.
tension
Talk
or,
about
like,
it.
challenge is, like, if I ever go to a gay pool party, which honestly, I haven't even wanna go to those, like, I
I
haven't been
don't know
wanting to go to
who
those.
why do people
No,
enjoy those?
please.
Why would you do that
No,
to you?
y'all don't even swim, you just stand there in your Speedo, and I'm like, "What can
Why?
you actually do?" Like, so, I mean, I love going to the pool with my friends,
Yeah.
but if I ever find myself in a space with other queer folks at the pool party, how will I be shirtless and call that a good day to myself, right? That's what
Amen.
I'm trying to and, I typically this is a bit like racy for me, but trying to get into, like, harnesses and, like, just wear those out, like, not wear those out,
Mm.
but, like, if I go to, like, a bear night or something here, then, like, just feel comfortable just, like, having a harness on and take my t-shirt
Yeah.
off and call that a good day. That's what I'm trying to work up to. It feels a bit weird 'cause it's, like, sexual in a way that I don't necessarily feel comfortable with. I'm trying to, like, embrace myself more in that way, and
Mhm.
it also sexually just be a harness and call that a good day, but I'm trying to the so my
It
goal
can't just
this
be a
year
fashion choice, yeah.
exactly, yes, 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 yes,
Mhm.
yes. So, it needs to be fashion. So my goal is to work up
For
toward doing
sure.
something like that. That
Mhm.
would be fun and interesting. I have one that I've been wearing around the house more, and I'm like,
Okay,
I can just
harness.
thank you. But she's a little tight though. She is not she literally just covers
And
the
I that is a
the
good
nip and
question.
not the areola, and I'm like, "Can I get a
Yeah.
harness that covers more of the teat a little bit?" Like, it's
Yes,
just,
please. Yeah, I was gonna
uh,
say, shout out listeners. If y'all know of a place that carries big body harnesses, please let us
let
know
us
because
know,
I would
please.
love to
Yeah,
be able to shout that out and put that in the notes for folks who need it or may want one. I mean,
period.
I don't know if I'll buy one anytime soon, but I will say that I know that there are listeners who probably want to know where folks can get a big bodied harness too. So let us
Yeah.
know. Shout out to, to the listener who might be able to share that info with us. All right. I appreciate you sharing. I see again, that's why we sisters. We sisters because our minds be thinking the same when
We
we start
see
talking about
each other.
things. We
Mhm,
see each
mhm.
other. We're gonna lift up Travell Anderson's name in that sense. Go buy their book. That being said, we've got your favorite. I'm gonna reset that. All right, y'all. So with that being said, we've got your favorite segment on deck. So stick around for your favorite seggy. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Pam will be back in a second. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and drive the boat like I always do with the segment. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, Pam. This week, my yes, ma'am, is our bisexual queen diva, Victoria Monet. I definitely want to say that I am House of Victoria Monet or House of Monet. All the
Mm.
Monets, Victoria Monet, Janelle Monet. Is it? Well, yeah, I think that's the only Monet. Is there another Monet?
Money exchange?
Monet Exchange too. I like her too. She hopefully she's supposed
Okay,
to be on the
yeah.
show in a couple weeks. So yes, shout out to
Yes.
all the Monets. But with that being said, I just wanted to shout out the visuals for All Right. You know, I want to say this: the girls don't want to work anymore, and every time I see Victoria do something, that and I say this is not a pejorative, that bitch works. She just works.
Mm,
She puts her heart and her soul into everything she touches. And I can't stand an artist beyond Beyonce. Obviously, I'm gonna always stand Beyonce. I just love the energy that Victoria puts into everything that she does. You can
mm,
just tell that there's this element of like respect for the art that she has, and that
Mm.
have you seen the video?
Not yet, but I
Oh,
saw it came out. I saw it came
it
out, so I'm very excited for
it is
that.
just it's 3 minutes of and from the dancing to the lights to the water moment
Mm.
at the end of it, like, there's just so the
Mm.
fact that Dave Myers did the video, she said budget, like, it's just I
Okay.
go up for Victoria Monet in ways that a lot of people probably don't, but I think she is that girl to watch in terms of like artistry and creativity. I also want to shout out to you that Normani just dropped their first single as well.
Mm.
Finally, Normani. I have been on her head, and I know that she's gone through a lot. I say it jokingly when I'm always
Mm.
like, up in her DMs, like, "Hey, girl, when are you gonna drop the album?" I know that she's gone through a lot, and I'm very happy to see that she's finally in a place where she feels like she one has the support from her label to put out the album the way she wants,
Yeah.
and then also too that she's also mentally in a good place. I think something happened. She had a family
Mhm.
matter happen. I'm not
Mm.
too sure what that was, but I know that that was a big part of why she pulled back from putting her album out. But I say all of that to say I'm just the dolls are eating, and I am a
Can we
doll.
add Kehlani to that list as well too? Because
Who?
uh, Kehlani, because her
Oh,
past 2
sure, go for
videos,
it.
like,
Hmm.
I'm just saying, like, the next few video, which people, this is gonna be a moment, this is gonna be a moment where I'm sure someone's gonna cry and company for it. But like the video was a beautiful video. Like she shifted
Great gown.
the video. No, it was like it was like she shifted the theme of the video from what it originally was like into one that celebrated like like the celebrated Palestine more.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
but also was like super queer. But the dancing, bitch, the like do a performance. That girl commits to a dance choreography and singing when she after hours her first single of the new album she's doing like
Yeah.
or that they're doing like really just eats it up. So like
Also, wanna
Kehlani
throw
is
out
also someone
Tinashe.
who
Tinashe
oh
too. People
okay
play in her face. I'm not a huge Tinashe fan, but what I will say is that that doll performs. When she performs, she's singing, she's dancing, she's giving
yes
you showmanship. And
yes
I want to add that to her too. You are never going to get like
the
the
girls are
girls
girly the best
don't
way.
work like a Normani or a Victoria Monet or Janelle Monet or a Kaylani or so yeah, a Tanashi. Like
Yeah,
I
period,
appreciate seeing when the girls hit the stage
period.
they work. So I want to just shout them out and say, just I guess my general yes ma'am is to all the girls, and I say girls, trans too. I know that there's some trans artists out there that probably I'm not that I don't know of that are out here working their asses off too to make really great art. But I'm just to anybody who's out there putting their art out and putting their heart and soul into it. That is my yes ma'am this week. But I'm excited for Normani's album to drop. Anyway, my no man Pam. So I was going back and forth because there was a lot of shit that had happened in the last couple of weeks, and I said to myself, I said, there are all these things in my mind, it was everywhere, but I'm gonna stick with the one that I initially wrote down yesterday. So I want to make it very clear that I appreciate I how do I say this without it coming across a certain kind of way. I guess I'm just gonna say it. I appreciate when organizations are doing their best to be like, oh, representation, yada yada yada, But I
Mm-mm.
think I find that a lot of the stuff that our orgs are doing are lazy, and I think that's where this conversation is leaning towards. I just find this to be lazy, and so I wanted to name that while I appreciate that San Diego Business Journal did do an LGBTQ leaders and influencers of 2024, I appreciate that. I think it's very lazy that there were no black people on that list.
There is one. There is 1.5. 1.5. There's one who is only because I know her very well. And there's one other person who is mixed black as well too. But out of a list of 50 people, majority of whom are white as hell, tis a very small statistic number, and that in itself is whew,
And that
whew,
okay, so to my point, so I will go back and not necessarily say that there was not one. There were some, but in a world
very very few,
very
very
few.
very few.
But in a world where I know you, in a world where I know another person who's running a magazine, in a world where I know a couple of queer journalists who live in San Diego,
Mm.
in a
Mm.
world where I know that there are a lot of queer black people that like a Kelsey who was doing things for the community and winning
Mhm.
awards. Like it's just lazy. And I think for I think some people
Yes.
when I call this kind of stuff out, I think people are thinking, well, John is just being, in their feelings that they weren't on the list. And I can go, I can give two fucks about somebody putting my name on a list. My frustration
Okay.
is that I should not have to name it. I should not have to be this bothered by me looking at another queer list
Mhm.
and going, where are the black people that are making a difference in San Diego? Where are the black people that are making a difference in the LGBTQ community? Especially when it's us who are the ones often leading the charge. And like you said a couple of segments ago, being chastised for the charges that we lead. So that's where my mind is right now. You can't just throw a couple of faces on something for Pride Month and then just be like, "Oh, well, we celebrated Pride. We did our part." No, bitch, you got to do your due diligence and really
Mm.
call in the people who are doing the work, especially right now. And that's like that has been, and I guess we're getting into kind of, again, John, why are you not in therapy and, and on a mic? I think for me, just recently, right? I went up to Sacramento and I saw all of the people in that room that were advocating for Bill AB 1955. And while I was so happy about it, right? And while I was so excited to see all of the people that I saw up there, my frustration was I can guarantee you that a lot of these people that were saying we need to support this bill have not made room for other black and trans people to be in a space to advocate for themselves, or have
Mm.
made them feel a certain way that they feel like they can't use their whole voice. And so that's what my point is. So call me what you want. Make sure you just put doctor in front of it. But I'm sick of it. I am really sick of constantly feeling like we're still, it's 2024. It is not that hard to Google people who are doing the work. It is not hard to find us. And still, I'll say this and then I'll shut up. It feels intentional at this point. It feels very
Mm.
intentional that spaces are doing what they can or doing what they want to make sure that black queer people specifically are not getting their due diligence. When I feel like, and I say we collectively, we are the ones that are putting a lot of our own livelihood on the line to move the to to move change, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I'll shut up now.
Ooh, ooh, I mean, I when I saw that, I was like, "What was the criteria for this?" I'm just curious. Like, what was the
That
criteria for this? I just
that
like who makes decisions, but also knowing that it's business journal, I was like, I feel
uh-huh.
less bothered
You
by
you
it
already know.
because
You already
because
know.
I'm not too worried over what they think about other people, to be quite honest. But I will give a shout out to my girl Yinka Freeman, who is one of the black folks on that, and one of the very few folks of color on that, because she is
My
everything.
God.
Inga is a fucking ball of light, and is a dope ass like events person in San Diego. It's just so cool, and I'm honored to work alongside her on Black Pride, which leads my yes, ma'am. It will be to Black San Diego Black Pride, not just because I am on the board of it, but also because we are. I wanted to just invite to everyone listening, especially folks if you are BFF. We're having Black Pride July 5th through 7th of
Hey.
this year. That is in by the time this comes out in a few weeks. We have day passes, we have weekend passes. Weekend passes 40 bucks. We for the whole weekend. We have a lot of things planned. We have Friday, we have a kickoff party and a Kiki ball that we're doing in San Diego.
No man
Saturday
on this bit.
Saturday we're doing a family cookout that is free, and then we are doing a Freaknik beach dance party. Should be so excited because we are bringing HBCU to the beach essentially, honoring the Freaknik life. That will be adults only. only Saturday night, and
How
that
you
your ticket does
doing?
include food and drinks, baby girl. And Sunday's gonna be a day party as well. So we have four full events that we're doing that we're hosting. If y'all are in San Diego, please come through. If you're not in San Diego, please think about coming through for it. Be amazing and fun. I'll be there working it, so please come and join me and come celebrate Black Pride with me. We are getting bigger every year, so it's going to be an amazing time, July 5th through 7th. My No Man Pam is going to be just to like just to anyone who's lazy during Pride, and I mean anyone as in corporations, big businesses,
Lazy
big brands are
pride.
lazy during Pride.
Yes.
Like y'all have just given up at this point. And I'm like, you are finding any and everybody who is cute or like has some cute thing that you can just like profit off of, and I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
y'all can do so much better than this. Like it really is giving lazy, is giving intentional. And also like y'all want to do that, but like when people boycott, don't be upset about it. I also give an MPM to this video I saw. Oh my god, I don't know who posted this video, but there is a trend called birth tourism, which basically means that if you're pregnant, you will bring your pregnant ass to a different country, so to one of the countries that allows this to be born. So then you get citizenship, so then the child
Oh,
gets
I
citizenship, and you
saw
get me a
that.
passport. And I just want to say, now, the person who made this was a person of at least let's say the lightest of skin descent, if not quite descent. I have to
Mm.
say, it is giving funny that y'all would really colonize birthing and immigration like this. Because what you're saying is you believe in immigration, which is what you're
Right,
saying is that
right,
you think
right.
people should be able to immigrate. Okay,
Uh-huh.
work. But if folks of color do it, it's poor, and if you do it, it's
Right,
aesthetic.
right,
Like I
right,
just
right, right.
make it make sense, girl. Like you really said, let me go to Puerto Rico. Sorry, you said let me go to Costa Rica. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. LOL. Let me go to Costa Rica and have a child, so that way I get a passport for free and my child gets citizenship. Girl,
Mhm.
like girl, because we know
Right.
if someone goes to Rica that here, you'd be like, why are you up here using your resources? Like it makes no sense. So
Come
I'm
on,
just like
Nancy. Make it make sense,
I'm just
girl.
girl, it has me wild. So no mayhem to anyone
Uh-huh.
who believes in this idea or this trend. If you do, then you better believe in immigration rights, immigration justice, and how folks who are migrants get into America safely. And you believe in their right to access their free lives here in America as well too. If you don't, then don't
Yeah,
do birth tourism
yeah.
because you're just dumb for that. Girl, bye.
Mhm. And I'm also gonna say, Imma let y'all in on a little secret before we move on. That a lo Have you seen, so, you know what? I'm not going to do, have you seen that TikTok of, I think that person might be Asian American, but they were talking about how they were at the gym, and this white man came up to them and said, "Hey, I just wanna know, where are you from? You look so exotic." And she looked at him and she was like, "Mm." She was like, "I'm from here." No, I think she was Native American. She was like, "I'm from here." She was like, "I," and he was like, "No, well, you don't look like you're from here. Where are you from?" And she was like, "I'm from here. I'm from here." She was like, "But actually, now that we're talking about it, you look exotic.
Exotic.
Where are you
Yeah.
from?" And then he was like, "I'm American." And she was like, "Exactly. I'm from here. You're not. Like, you're exotic." She was like, "So white people are exotic if you really think about it."
I'm
And I was like, "Girl, you
screaming.
better get, you better say that," because
Yes.
she was 110% right.
Yes.
None of us are from
You're
here.
actually exotic, baby.
Yeah,
Bye.
you're actually the one that's exotic. You
I'm
came here
screaming.
to colonize us. So you don't even, yeah. Mm-mm. Okay, girl. But anyway, all that to be said, that's my secret. I'm gonna let y'all in on. The secret is that a lot of the folks that are talking about immigration and who can and can't live here actually shouldn't be here in the first place anyway, because this was never your land. But we all know this. Anyway, all that to be said,
Okay.
send your thoughts, feedback, and email to blackfatfempod@gmail.com. You can send us your thoughts via social media by interacting with our post on Instagram and Twitter by using the handle blackfatfempod. Also, if you haven't had a chance, I'm going to just throw this out one more good time for the peoples. If you haven't had a chance to listen to our episode of Black People of Paramore with Sequoia, what are you waiting for? It was
Please.
honestly a
Ah,
moment. And
so good.
so just want to make sure that you have a chance to go over there and get those kikis. I think the episode came out last week. All right.
Mhm.
But anyway, Joho, where can the dolls find you?
Of course, my loves. You can find me at Joe Daniels across all socials. My website, jordan.daniels.com. And if not there, you can find me curled the fuck up in my house this summer because
T.
my body is clearly done with traveling constantly.
Yeah. Mhm.
Nomadic influencers, I just want to know, how do you do this? Like, how do you travel from place to place and be fine? Because I'm not. I'm not fine. I'm not okay. I am just exhausted. I'm tired. My body said, bitch, you sick. So you will find me at home, but also let me know how y'all can do this safely because
Amen.
this is
It's a lot.
unsustainable for my ass right now. Thank you.
No, I for people who do this and like, yeah, I travel every day. I'm like, the fuck? Like, how do you
Girl,
do this?
bye.
Because this is
Girl, bye.
old. Like, I'm over it already. I'm right
I'm
there with
tired.
you.
Why am I paying rent
Right
then?
there with
Like,
you.
no.
Right.
Girl,
Right
bye.
there with you. I've literally probably been in my apartment maybe 5 days solid this month. And I'm just
Mm,
I prayed for this, but I also just I pray for a time where I don't have to pack. All
yeah.
that to be said, you can visit my website at www.drjohnpaul.com. Or you can add me on social by using at Dr. John Paul. Otherwise, you can catch me packing up one more time for one more trip, and then I am free from hotel hell for I would say about 2 3 weeks before I have to fly out
Girl.
again in July. So I'm
Oof.
just hoping again. I'm trying to count my blessings and think about the joy that I will have being home. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff too, because there's conversations about us possibly moving and blah 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 blah. So who knows? But all that to be said, I know I probably just dropped that, and you're like, what? Moving locally, we won't be moving anywhere
Okay.
far,
I
but
was like,
we no, I'm
okay.
not moving out of
Whew.
the state or anywhere else. No, I'm not going anywhere. I always tell people I probably will never leave California because I understand the racism here, and
Listen.
I
Listen.
understand it, and I don't really comprehend like North Dakota racism. I'm sure it's different than SoCal racism. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick to the things I know. What TL say? Stick to the rivers and the lakes you
Rivers
used
and
to.
lakes like you used to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Paris Lake. I'm gonna go ahead and stick
Yeah.
to that.
Oh
Lake
my God.
Elsinore, Big Bear Lake, all
Period.
of those are the lakes
Okay.
I know. I'm gonna go ahead and stick to all that. But anyway, all that to be said, we want to thank our wonderful producer, Bay Wang, for handling all the logistics and everyone over at iHeartMedia for keeping this show up and running. We would like to shout out our wonderful editor, Chris Rogers, who is just again really doing it up over here for the Black Fat Femme podcast. We are so grateful to have such an amazing editor, and we want to also thank them for constantly or oh no, not even thank them. I just want to continue to say again, every episode, this is what we're episode 101. It has
Yes,
been
ma'am.
how many months? How many months, Giselle? It's been wait, so December, January, February, March, April, May, June. It's the second week of June. So it has been about 6 months and 2 weeks. So if we're breaking that down to days, it's been a
In
little over
28 weeks.
200 and something days that we do not have the visuals for the Renaissance film. And it has been almost 2 years that we do not have visuals for Renaissance, the actual album. I'm never going to get off the mic, and I'm never going to get off of your lace about that, Beyonce. Beyonce, I
You
want
know, yeah,
my
because she gave us visuals with
visuals.
the albums, the past 3 albums, past 4 albums. So why not give it to why? Just why?
Why, Giselle? Why? Why are we still here? Why are we still here? Anyway, all that to be said, this has been another show. It's funny. Pause. It's funny because every time I say this has been another show, in my head, because we listen back to the episode, I can hear the music playing.
do do
Dude,
do.
it's been another show. Stay black, fat, femme, and fabulous. And remember, black won't crack and brown won't frown. I love
Period.
us for real. Bye.
Bye.